Finally, this movie is here. Star Wars The Last Jedi is in theaters, and I cannot believe it. I've been waiting for this movie ever since The Force Awakens stopped playing. What does Luke say to Rey when she comes to the island? Man, that has been on my mind for so long, and finally we get that answer. But does this movie give us the answers we wanted? There's a lot of controversy over the internet about the things that happen in this movie, and I'm going to go into my thoughts on the good and the bad of this movie. And this is going to have a lot of spoilers in it, so just be wary. If you haven't seen this movie, definitely go see it before checking this out. So I have a list of things that I've written, and I'm just going to kind of go point by point and just see where we get. So let's start with the pros. So the big pro for me is that this movie flips a lot of the elements of Star Wars on its head. So what does that mean? So a lot of the things such as like Star Wars having usually a really big bad villain, and that is the center of the focus for the protagonist to take down, that is taken out here in this movie. I mean, Snoke dies in this movie, which was one of the biggest surprises for me. It's just bold things like that, where you're just not expecting the answer that is given to us in this movie. That's what this movie is all about, and that is what fans are having troubles with. One of the things fans are having troubles with. But I really like it. I think it's really satisfying, and it goes away from the norm. And it worked for me. So, yeah, that's one of the things I really loved. Besides it being a really ambitious story, it answered the questions in the way I wasn't expecting. So, for instance, Snoke. I mean, we don't get anything revolving, or I mean, as far as who he is at all. I mean, but they just tossed all those Snoke theories that people had out the window, and it's like, those don't matter, we're killing him. And that was such a mind blow for me, and it took me so long to process it, because it's like, what is going to happen in episode 9? I mean, are we even going to learn any more about Snoke? Does it matter? Apparently it doesn't. But for me, it works after thinking about it for some time, because it puts Kylo at the center, where I think he belongs. He is such a rich character, and my favorite, besides Rey, of this trilogy. I think there's just so much going on with Kylo, and it's just really, really clicking on all cylinders. So yeah, we have the Snoke theories are thrown out the window. It also answers questions about how strong and where can the Force go. For instance, Yoda coming back to visit Luke, he interacts with the physical world as a ghost. And that's cool. I mean, it's stuff like this where it's expanding on what the Force can do. And another big thing is Leia being able to survive in space. That while it looked really weird, and it didn't really work for me, as far as how they executed the look of it. But it's still cool. It's still expanding the Force mythology and in the ways the Force can work. So that was cool. But just it didn't look good. And then the final thing with how they expanded the mythology of the Force and how strong it can be is Kylo and Rey being able to interact with each other through the Force and go into each other's environments. That was really neat, because every time it happened, to feel like all the air in the room got sucked out, and it was just laser focused on what those two were talking about. It was really, really neat, and really cool. So yeah, I loved how it expanded on what the Force can do, and I'm sure we'll get more of that in episode 9. Another answer that most people were not expecting is who Rey's parents are. That was really surprising where they went with that. They're just nobodies. They sold her off, and yeah, that was it. And it was really surprising they did that because it felt like a really Star Warsy thing to, have this big family reveal or something. That just seems like the Star Wars thing. And for them to just be like, nope, I mean, it's nobody. It's not really that big of a deal. Don't care about her parents because they're nobodies. I mean, that was, while it's shocking, I mean, it worked. It worked. It was different and it was refreshing. At least for me. I mean, most people, there's a lot of people that don't like it, but it worked for me. Another thing I like is there's a really big internal struggle with Rey, Kylo, and Luke. Throughout this movie, they're being pulled to the light and the dark, they're in this in-between area. It's like, what do I do? And that was awesome. That it made the movie really, really interesting, especially with those three. I mean, they were the strongest part of this movie by far, just because there was so much going on with what they were doing. So that worked for me. And the fan service of this movie, there's two moments that really stuck out. The Yoda part, where he comes to visit Luke, and the Obi-Wan message that R2 gives Luke. Those really worked for me because it helped expand or push the story. I don't remember exactly everything that Yoda said, but it made Luke get off his bum. I mean, it made him go do something and just stop being just a hermit. I mean, he made him go do something, and that was great. It forced Luke to help. And the Obi-Wan message, another great callback, and it was another thing that helped Luke get Rey to learn why she should be afraid of using the Force and why it's something to not be taken lightly. And so it really helped push Luke Skywalker into a direction to help the rebellion and resistance. So the fan service really worked. I mean, an example of fan service that doesn't work is in Rogue One when C-3PO and R2 are just kind of like there and don't do anything with the story. It's like, hey, we're characters in this that you love, and we're here. That's fan service that doesn't work. This worked. It pushes the story along. And then some other things. I mean, this movie looks really, really good. I mean, the cinematography is right on par with Rogue One, which I thought when I saw that was the best looking Star Wars film, and I think this is on par with that. And one of my other favorite things is that this movie completes Luke's storyline perfectly. I mean, if you think about where Luke was in A New Hope and where he ends up in this movie, it really hits you in the heart. I mean, it is so perfect, and he's one of my favorite movie heroes ever, and they just did so much justice to his story. And I can't wait to see how they use Luke in Episode 9. I'm just so incredibly interested in what they do there. Other than that, this movie has wonderful action, and it has my favorite Star Wars scene ever, where Rey and Kylo are fighting the Praetorian Guards. My jaw was on the floor. I mean, that was amazing. A dark side user and a light side user fighting alongside each other, but for different reasons. It was beautiful. It was perfect. It left me speechless. There's no words to describe that scene. It was amazing. So I think that's most of my big positives. Otherwise, I mean, Porgs, I love them. I think if we're going to use Porgs, I just need to see more of it and to have a really good stance on what I think about it. But they worked for me in this movie. The campfire scene with Chewie was really, really funny. And Also, I loved how prominent of a role Leia has in this movie. I thought she played the character probably the best she's ever played it. And yeah, she really gave a really great swan song with this movie. It was awesome. What a way to go out. So those are my positives. Let's get into some of the things I didn't like about this movie. The one of the big things I didn't like was the Canto Bite scene, which felt like a different movie to me. I mean, it was so CGI heavy, and some of the CGI just didn't look that good. Yeah, it felt like Harry Potter. I don't know why, but like it was just so. It felt like just CGI characters on a Earth-like planet. I didn't like it at all. I didn't feel like it pushed the story anywhere, and it had just a random animal abuse message. It didn't do anything. Plus, they didn't even find the code breaker they were looking for. They ended up with Benicio del Toro's character DJ, which is just some random code breaker. So that whole bit on Canto Bite it was so pointless. So pointless. It was bad. It was like prequel bad. It was so bad. And then on the topic of DJ, why did he have a stutter? I mean, his character, the character didn't work for me, like, at all. I don't know. It was really frustrating. I didn't like that character. And then while this movie had some pretty good comedy, a lot of times it just felt misplaced. So, like, one specific example is when Rey hands Luke the lightsaber, and he just throws it over his shoulder, it was funny, but it's like, why can't this be a serious moment? This is a big deal. I mean, this is when Rey is first meeting Luke Skywalker, and it's a big deal. This is what we've been waiting for a couple of years now. Like, what does Luke do? And he throws it over his shoulder. He could have at least like thrown it on the ground or something in front of Rey. I think that would have had more impact. I just thought that was misplaced comedy, and it happens a little bit, actually probably too often in this movie. And then again, back to the whole Leia using the Force. I just thought it looked weird. I mean, yeah, they could have done a better job with that. But I like how strong she is with the Force. I like that idea, just not how they executed how it looks. And then the Finn and Rose and Poe storyline, it wasn't as good as Kylo Ren and Luke's. It just wasn't. It was so weak in comparison. And it felt like Rose and Finn's romance, it felt pretty forced on us. And I didn't like that. I didn't like it at all. So yeah, I hope in episode 9 they give those characters more to do. And yeah, more to do. Because I really love Finn, I really love Poe. I think they're fabulous characters. It's just that there's so much light on shining onto Rey and Kylo right now. I mean, they're just stealing this trilogy. It's not even a contest. So yeah, I mean, those are my thoughts on this movie. I know there's a ton of controversy over how they answer questions and the storytelling of this movie. But I think the fact that this is one of the most talked about Star Wars movies, I think that makes it something really unique and special. It's going to make it stand out from the rest. And I love it. I love it for what it's doing. And so I'm really excited and interested where episode 9 goes. I'm really curious. I mean, they have a lot to do in one movie, I think. There's so much that needs to be answered. So yeah, I cannot wait for episode 9. I'm sure that's the case with everyone else. So let me know what you think of Star Wars, The Last Jedi in the comments below. Be very interested to have a conversation about it. Yeah. So yeah, like this video, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you at the movies.